had already traveled to India about 4 times, so I thought since I did not get sick any of these other times, I knew what I was doing. I would have no problems. I could eat whatever I wanted, and I would be fine with the spice because I figured out my spice level. I like spicy food. Well, let me tell you, as we say in the South, if it's hot going in, it's hot coming out. Let me tell you how I discovered that my tolerance level had changed.
Oh no!
And how it is very important to travel with anti-diarrheal medication. You just never know when one particular dish or one particular trip is just gonna be different. So come prepared. Let me tell you why. I went to India in March of 2022. I'd been to India several times before for work. So this was not my first rodeo. I had traveled to Chennai, Jaipur, Mumbai, Delhi. I have some experience in the country. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I had tried a lot of different dishes and really enjoyed the foods that I ate. So this was not something that should have been a shocker for me, I guess. At least that's what I thought in my mind. Well, this particular trip just hit me differently. I don't know why. Maybe, as you get older, things change. Just, I don't know. It could have been any number of things, right? But I think it's important to keep in mind that I assumed because I had been there 4 times before, I was going to be good. This time was not the same. So I started off in Delhi, had been eating things, and I started to notice everything just seems a little bit hotter, a little bit spicier to me than I recall. And so I thought, okay, well, not a big deal. Day 1, day 2, not too bad. By day 3, I felt like I was sweating even if I wasn't moving. And now, it was hot. Like March in India is hot. So I figured maybe it's the weather. My stomach was saying, girl, you need to be realistic. You really think it's just the heat from the outside that's making you sweat like this? But I didn't want to hear all that. I didn't want to hear all that. So, by the time I arrived in Mumbai on day 4, I really was like, oof, you got a whole nother week of work to go. I don't know if you gonna make it. So, there I am, going around having meetings and things. Everything's cool. And then my 24-year-old colleague, just, food aficionado, knows so many great restaurants in India. He takes me to this really great lunch spot. And the food is delicious and very, very hot. The spice level was unforeseen. So we are having lunch. I have a mango lassi at the end of it. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe the yogurt's going to calm it down. Honey, the yogurt ain't do nothing. I was like, oh dear Jesus, I don't know. You're not gonna be able to make it to any work meetings tomorrow if you don't fess up and find yourself some medication. So I said to my colleague, oh, before we go back to the hotel, do you think we could stop by a pharmacy? Because I just have this headache that won't quit, and I just think, it would be nice to kind of get something to settle it down a bit, because I want to be ready and fresh for tomorrow. Honey, I wanted to be ready and fresh for my life. So he's like, oh, no problem. I'll take you to a pharmacy. And so we go not too far away, and it just looks like a bunch of little shops and things. And we end up at this place. I'm like thinking to myself, oh, this little place, this little hole in the wall is a pharmacy. But when you get closer, you start to see the little plus sign, which usually means that that's a pharmacy, a place to get medication. Okay, so it's a pharmacy. And the poor young man had to follow me up in there just in case, because it's true, like most of the time, obviously, English is one of the languages in India. Most of the time, you're going to have someone who speaks English back to you. So it's not always going to be an issue. But since there might have been an issue with what I wanted to ask for, medication names are not always the same from country to country. He came in there with me to help me. And I'm like, girl, I don't even know. Why did I even feel the need to lie? The boy had to come in there with me to help me anyway. So, he's going to hear what I'm talking about. Turns out when I get to the counter, the pharmacist speaks perfect English with no problem. And so my colleague didn't need to stand there right next to me, but the stall slash store is relatively small. So again, he was going to hear everything I had to say. So at that point, all shame was gone because I'm like, ain't no need to be shame. I'm not the first Westerner he's had to take all around the city before. So, I asked the pharmacist, I say, sir, I'm just having a lot of stomach issues and nothing seems to be stopping what ails me. What would you recommend I do? He's like, well, so exactly what is your issue? I'm like, man, I got to spell it out because, he needs to know in order to tell me the best medication for my issues. I'm like, I've got diarrhea. I'm just not coping very well with the spice. And I said, I've been to India before. I don't know why this is happening. He said, oh, things change, things happen. So he said, let's just figure out how to make sure that you're feeling better. So he recommended loperamide, which is an anti-diarrheal medication. And, in the States, you might pay like, you would definitely pay more than what I paid. He told me to get that. And he told me to get essentially electrolytes that you would just put into your bottled water. So he said, we don't have Gatorade, but I can give you this powder. You put it in the water, you'll be good to go because you're probably dehydrated on top of the fact that, you're going to the restroom a lot. And then, you just keep taking this. You should be fine in about 3 to 4 days. If you're not, then you may need to see a doctor, but it sounds like it's just, avoid the spice, ask for things to be mild as you can get them, and you should be back to normal soon. And I thought, oh, okay, you sure? Yeah, you're fine. So he gave me, 4 of these electrolyte powders and a pack of maybe 20 of these loperamide pills. And all of this cost me a grand total of $1.50 US. So, lovely man, saved my life. My colleague was sitting there smirking. I was like, dude, you do what you got to do because I'm dying. I'm dying. I need help. Somebody got to help me. So I got back to the hotel and I took the meds that the pharmacist gave me. Just psychologically, the relief I had just knowing that I had these meds was a game changer. But they did slow down the ever-loving flow of hot that was escaping my body every time I hit the room. So I could immediately start to see that things were changing. I was not sweating profusely anymore. And I definitely felt better. And then the rest of the trip was fine. I was a bit more vigilant about saying, look, y'all, I'm weak. I can't do what I used to do. I don't know why, but everything is so hot. I can't do it. It used to not be as hot, but it's hot now. So, I just had to fess up and say, yeah, I was laughing at my other colleagues. So I was like, oh, these little fair-skinned people, they all, well, this girl, she's from the West Coast. Oh, honey, I shouldn't have made no jokes about nobody because I was weaker than anybody else, I believe, who had been to visit my colleagues. So anyway, I had these meds. I started to feel so much better, and it just made me think, you need to consistently take a certain pack of meds with you. Now, I had no problem when I got to the pharmacist. He was more than capable of helping me. The thing is, had I had these medications with me when I first didn't feel well, I could have started to take them right away and resolve this issue. You can bring anti-diarrheal medication, Imodium, azithromycin, Pepto-Bismol for nausea. These are things that are very helpful in countries where you are not quite used to the spice level. Maybe you're just not used to the kinds of food that you're going to find there. Even if you think you are, you never know if you're going to get sick from, you might just get food poisoning. I've had food poisoning in the U.S., so on pizza. So it's not like, woe is me, India's a terror. I still on that trip had some of the best food of my life. I love Indian food. I just can't be doing Indian spice like my colleagues from the country at all. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. There are so many travel stories, good, bad, and ugly, to tell. What have you dealt with on a trip? Have you had food poisoning? Have you eaten spicy food and lived to tell the tale? Let me know what food adventures you have had on your travels and what you did about it. I am very eager to hear from you.